The galaxy was loud that day. Trade lanes were busy. Patrol fleets moved in neat lines. News screens repeated the same stories again and again. Small border fights, council debates, and jokes about old threats that no longer mattered. Humans were one of those jokes. A forgotten name. A footnote in burned records. Most species believed humans had vanished because they were weak. At the edge of known space, something changed. A single ship appeared. It did not arrive with light or noise. There was no jump flare. No warning ping. One moment the space was empty, and the next moment the ship was there, dark, still, and quiet. It floated near a dead star system that had no value and no traffic. Long-range sensors noticed it late. At first, the readings were confusing. The ship was small compared to modern warships. Its hull looked old, almost simple. No glowing markings. No visible weapons. Its engine output was low, almost peaceful. Analysts laughed. Probably a lost relic, one officer said. Scrap from an extinct race. Another added, mark it and move on. But the ship did not move on. It stayed exactly where it was. Minutes passed, then hours, then a full cycle. The ship did not transmit. It did not mine. It did not scan. It only waited as if it knew someone would come. A nearby patrol fleet was sent to investigate. 5 ships, routine mission, no weapons charged. As they approached, their sensors began to fail. First, their long-range scans went silent. Then navigation screens froze. One ship reported that its internal clocks were slowing down. Another said gravity felt wrong, like the ship was sinking in invisible water. The patrol commander ordered a retreat. They never completed it. One by one, the patrol ships vanished from a network. No explosion, no debris, no distress call. They simply stopped existing on the screens. The human ship did not chase them. It did not fire. It remained still. Now the laughter stopped. News of the incident reached the Galactic Council within minutes. Emergency channels opened. Old admirals leaned forward in their seats. Historians were called. Restricted files were requested. One word began to spread in quiet voices. Human. That word caused discomfort. Many records about humans were incomplete. Others were sealed. Some were missing entirely. The official story claimed humans failed to adapt and disappeared on their own. The unofficial story was different. Humans warned the galaxy once. They warned about overexpansion, about weapon races, about turning space into a battlefield. When the warnings were ignored, humans withdrew, not in fear, but in silence. Most species believed that silence meant defeat. The ship still waited. A council member suggested a show of force, not an attack, just a reminder of authority. A destroyer squadron was dispatched, larger and fully armed. Their orders were simple: approach, scan, and demand identification. As the squadron came within range, the human ship finally moved. It rotated slowly. That was all. No weapons fired. No shields raised. Every ship in the squadron lost power at the same moment. Lights went out. Engines died. Communication vanished. Crews floated in darkness, unable to even scream to one another. Then power returned. The destroyers were unharmed. But something was different. Their weapon systems no longer responded. Targeting software had been rewritten. Command codes were replaced with a single line of text that appeared on every screen. "We see you." Panic hit the council chamber. This was not old technology. This was not luck. This was control. The human ship finally transmitted. The signal was short, clear, in perfect galactic standard, using a language humans should not have updated in centuries. "You ignored us." The message said, "We did not forget you." The signal ended. The ship did not threaten. It did not explain. It simply turned its bow toward the heart of galactic space. Then it waited again. Strategists realized something terrifying. The ship was not attacking. It was not defending. It was observing, learning, measuring responses. It was not a scout. It was a reminder. Deep in forgotten archives, an old human phrase resurfaced, translated again and again, until its meaning became clear. When we return, it said, it will not be to ask. Across the galaxy, fleets were recalled, borders closed, old enemies stopped fighting. For the first time in centuries, the galaxy held its breath together, because a single human ship had appeared, and everyone understood the same truth at the same time. This was not the beginning of a war. This was the end of being ignored. The alarms did not ring. That was the first strange thing. After the human ship's message spread across the galaxy, no emergency siren sounded. No automatic war protocols activated. Instead, silence filled command centers and council halls. Leaders sat still, staring at screens that showed the same image again and again, the dark, unmoving human ship. Silence, for the galaxy, was more frightening than noise. Deep beneath the Galactic Council spire, a door that had not been opened in centuries unlocked itself. No vote was taken. No permission was asked. The system responded to a priority code, so old that most believed it was a myth. The human archive came online. Historians rushed in first, then military analysts, then intelligence chiefs who had built their careers on the belief that humans no longer mattered. The files were damaged, burned, and incomplete, but what remained was enough to change everything. The first recordings showed humans not as beggars or victims, but as builders. They built faster than anyone expected. They adapted to hostile worlds. They learned alien languages. They joined councils, trade unions, and peace talks. For a time, they believed cooperation was possible. Then the warnings began. Human representatives spoke of imbalance, of empires growing too large, of weapons that could not be taken back once used. They asked for limits, for patience, for restraint. The galaxy laughed. One recording showed a human delegate standing alone in a council chamber, surrounded by taller, stronger species. The delegate's voice was calm. "If you keep pushing," the human said, "you will force us to choose." The council ignored the warning. The next files were harder to watch. Human colonies were attacked during border corrections. Trade routes were blocked. Defense systems were tested on human worlds by mistake. Each time, humans protested. Each time, the galaxy delayed, debated, and did nothing. Then the protests stopped. Human space went quiet. At the time, the council declared it a victory without war. Humans were labeled as failed participants in galactic society. Their name was slowly removed from maps and records. New generations grew up believing humans simply could not survive. The archive told a different story. Humans did not fall. They left. They dismantled their visible infrastructure. They erased their trails. They pulled back into regions of space others could not safely enter. Not to hide, but to change. A military analyst paused one file and zoomed in on a star map. Human retreat paths did not lead away from danger. They led through it. "Why go there?" someone asked. No one answered. Another file played. It showed early human ship designs. They were simple, modular, not impressive. But one note repeated across the design stood out. "Control over power is more important than power itself." That sentence echoed in every mind. Back in open space, the human ship shifted slightly. Not closer, not farther, just enough to remind the galaxy it was still watching. The council attempted to send a reply, a polite message, a careful one. It spoke of misunderstandings, of past errors, of hope for peace. The message failed to send. Every transmission channel bounced back, untouched, as the space itself refused to carry the words. Fear began to spread, not fast, but deep. Civilian networks picked up rumors. Merchants delayed shipments. Private defense fleets powered down and waited. Old rivals avoided each other's borders. No one wanted to make the wrong move while the human ship was present. Then a second shock arrived. A deep space listening array detected a pattern. The human ship was not alone. It was not calling for help. It was sinking. Tiny fluctuations in space appeared far beyond known sensor range. Not jumps, not portals. Something slower, something controlled. A young analyst whispered what others were afraid to say. "It's a door," he said, "and it's already open." The council demanded options. Military leaders offered plans, none of them confident. Attack scenarios ended in unknown outcomes. Retreat scenarios led to loss of control. Ignoring the ship was no longer possible. Finally, one historian spoke. "We made one mistake before," she said. "We assumed human silence meant weakness." She brought up the final archive file. It was a human message, never broadcast, recorded just before they vanished from known space. "We will step away," the human voice said. "Not because we are afraid, but because the galaxy is not ready to hear us yet." The recording ended. Back in the present, the human ship sent a second message, shorter than the first. "You are ready now." Across the galaxy, leaders understood the truth too late. The ship that appeared was not a threat. It was a test, and the galaxy was already failing it. Fear makes decisions faster than wisdom ever can. Inside the Galactic Council, voices rose. Some leaders demanded patience. Others demanded action. But one idea grew louder than all the rest. Strike now, before more human ships arrive. They convinced themselves it was the only safe choice. A combined fleet was assembled in record time. Thousands of ships from different empires gathered near the human vessel. It was the largest show of force the galaxy had formed in centuries. Commanders believed numbers alone would end the problem. From a distance, the human ship looked unchanged. Still small, still silent, still alone. That made the decision easier. The fleet spread out in attack formation. Weapons charged. Shields flared to life. Every system was pushed to maximum readiness. The order was clear. Destroy the ship before it could react. The human ship did not move. The attack began. Energy beams crossed space. Missiles followed. Long-range cannons fired in perfect timing. For a brief moment, the galaxy felt confident again. This was familiar. This was power they understood. None of the weapons hit. They did not miss. They stopped. Every projectile froze in space, as if time itself had paused around the human ship. Missiles hung silently. Energy beams bent, twisted, and faded into nothing. Confusion spread across the fleet. Before new orders could be given, the human ship spoke. "This is not an attack," the calm voice said. "This is a demonstration." Space shifted. Not violently, not suddenly. It folded, slow and controlled. The fleet's sensors went blind. Star maps no longer matched reality. Ships found themselves drifting apart, unable to tell how far they were from one another. Then the systems began to fail. Navigation shut down first, then weapons, then shields. One by one, ships reported the same problem. Their technology was still intact, but it no longer obeyed them. A commander shouted orders that no one could follow. The human ship moved for the first time. It passed through the fleet without firing a single shot. As it moved, ships lost gravity, then regained it. Crews were thrown against walls, then gently settled back in place. No one was killed. No hulls were breached, but control was gone. The human ship stopped at the center of the formation. A second presence appeared. It was not a ship in the normal sense, more like a shadow in space, shaped by gravity and light. Sensors could not lock onto it. It felt less like a weapon and more like a rule being enforced. The human voice returned. "You brought fleets," it said. "We brought limits." Suddenly, entire groups of ships powered down and drifted. Others found themselves turned around, facing away from the human vessel. Some vanished entirely, reappearing minutes later far from the battlefield, unharmed but helpless. The galaxy watched in shock. This was not war. This was control. A desperate council member tried to override the attack, ordering a full retreat. The command never reached the fleet. The human presence had already rewritten the communication space around them. Then came the final blow to galactic pride. The human ship transmitted live images, footage from the fleet's own bridges, showing frightened commanders, frozen officers, and silent crews. The transmission was sent across public channels, visible to civilians everywhere. The message was clear. We can see everything. Then the human ship released the fleet. Power returned. Systems responded. Weapons came back online. But no one fired. The fleet withdrew in disorder, Not chased, not threatened. They fled because they understood something fundamental had changed. Their strength meant nothing here. As the last ships pulled away, the human ship sent one final message to the fleet commanders only. You chose force because you fear what you did not understand. It said, we expected that. The message paused, as if choosing its next words carefully. This was restraint. The channel closed. Hours later, deep space monitors detected a new signal. Another human ship emerged, not beside the first, but far away on the opposite edge of controlled space. Then another. They did not arrive together. They appeared everywhere. The galaxy finally understood the truth it had avoided. The first human ship was never meant to win a battle. It was meant to show that battles no longer mattered. Across worlds and stations, the same realization spread quietly and painfully. Humans had not returned to conquer. They had returned because the galaxy had proven it could not be trusted with power. And now, the galaxy would learn what humans did instead. The galaxy waited for destruction. After the fleets failed and human ships appeared across controlled space, everyone expected the same pattern as before: planet strikes, system sieges, and endless war. Defense networks were raised. Civilians were moved underground. Empires prepared to lose worlds. Nothing happened. No planets burned. No cities fell. No stars exploded. Instead, something far more unsettling began. Trade routes failed. Not destroyed, closed. Navigation beacons went dark, not broken but locked. Merchant ships found themselves unable to calculate safe paths. Automated ports refused docking requests, responding with polite but firm denial codes. At first, leaders thought it was sabotage. Then they realized it was permission being revoked. Military networks followed. Weapon factories reported system errors. Assembly lines stopped mid-build. Warships discovered their targeting software would no longer recognize living worlds as valid objectives. A general screamed at engineers to fix it. The engineers could not. Every system change was clean, precise, and impossible to trace. No viruses. No damage. Just rules rewritten at a level no one else could reach. Across the galaxy, power was slipping away, quietly. The human ships remained visible, but distant. They did not patrol. They did not threaten. They watched. One empire refused to accept this. The Varkeen Dominion declared human actions an act of war. They mobilized their remaining functional fleets and attempted to bypass the restrictions by using older, manual systems. Their ships launched toward a neutral system, hoping to force a reaction. Humans responded within seconds, not with weapons. Every Varkeen ship lost access to fuel control. Engines throttled down smoothly and shut off. The ships drifted, perfectly stable, trapped between stars. A human transmission appeared only to the Varkeen command ship. You are still thinking in terms of violence. The voice said, we are thinking in terms of safety. The transmission ended. The ships remained disabled, crews alive and unharmed. Fear turned into understanding. Humans were not fighting armies. They were removing the ability to cause harm. A captured alien commander was brought to a secure council station for questioning. He expected torture, interrogation, threats. None came. A human representative entered the room. No armor, no weapons, just calm eyes. Why do this? The commander asked. Why not end us? The human answered simply, because if we end you, you learn nothing. The word spread quickly through intelligence circles. For centuries, the galaxy believed power came from destruction. Humans showed something different, power that chose when not to destroy. More systems were adjusted. Planetary shields stayed active, but orbital weapons lost firing permission. Surveillance networks were reduced to defensive use only. Even propaganda systems began failing, unable to spread calls for war. Civilian worlds noticed something strange. They felt safer. Pirate attacks stopped. Border raids vanished. Long-fought wars froze in place, not by treaty, but by inability. The tools of violence were still there, but they no longer worked the way they used to. The Council attempted one final act of authority. They declared human intervention illegal under galactic law. The human response arrived instantly, broadcast to every channel. You wrote the law to protect yourselves. The message said, we rewrote the environment to protect everyone. The declaration was ignored because it could not be enforced. Slowly, painfully, the galaxy accepted a truth it never wanted to face. Humans were not conquerors. They were custodians. They did not rule through fear, but through design. By changing the rules beneath power, they made domination meaningless. The human ships began to move again, not closer, but farther apart, positioning themselves at key junctions of space. Not as guards, as boundaries. A historian watching the star maps whispered an old human phrase found in the archives. The strongest hand, it said, is the one that never has to strike. For the first time in recorded history, the galaxy realized war had not been stopped by force. It had been made unnecessary, and that terrified them more than any weapon ever could. Most of the galaxy adjusted. Trade slowed but stabilized. Borders quieted. Military commanders learned to live with systems that no longer obeyed reckless orders. Worlds that had known only tension began to feel an unfamiliar thing, calm. But not everyone accepted it. The Karth Dominion was old, proud, and built on fear. Its rulers believed control came from punishment, not balance. To them, the human presence was not protection. It was humiliation. They searched for a weakness. Deep within forbidden vaults, the Dominion uncovered an ancient weapon. It was older than the Council, older than most modern alliances. A planet killer, designed in an age when no one cared about consequences. It did not rely on networks, AIs, or shared systems. It was crude, manual, powerful. The Dominion believed this made it invisible to human control. Their target was not a human world. It was a message. They aimed a weapon at a forgotten star system once listed as an abandoned human colony. The record said it was dead, empty, useless. Destroying would prove one thing to the galaxy. Humans could still be hurt. The weapon launched. Across the galaxy, sensors detected it instantly. Human ships did not rush to intercept. They did not block the path. They waited. At the edge of the target system, the weapon stopped. Not exploded. Not disabled. Stopped. The massive device hung above the star, fully armed, its power building. Then suddenly locked in place. Its systems showed green. Perfect function. But it would not move forward. A human signal reached the Karth capital. We allowed this, the voice said, so you could understand the difference. The weapon turned around. Slowly, carefully, under full control, but not the Dominion's. It retraced its path, crossing space in silence. Karth defense fleet scrambled, unsure whether to fire or flee. Their weapons would not respond. Their shields did nothing. The planet killer stopped above the Karth homeworld, visible to everyone. Cities looked up and saw it hanging in the sky like a judgment that refused to fall. A final human message broadcast across every public channel. This device can end your world, the voice said calmly. We will not use it. The weapon powered down. Then it disassembled itself. Piece by piece, burning safely into the planet's upper atmosphere, harmless light instead of death. The message continued. You believe strength meant the ability to destroy, the human said. Strength is choosing not to. The Karth Dominion collapsed within days. Not from attack, but from shame. Their allies left. Their people protested. Their leaders vanished from public view, powerless without fear to protect them. Across the galaxy, the lesson spread faster than any fleet ever could. Humans did not punish rebellion with extinction. They punished it with exposure. They showed everyone exactly what they could do, and then chose restraint. That choice echoed deeper than any explosion. On distant worlds, children asked their elders why the humans did not rule the galaxy if they were so strong. The elders had no easy answer, because the truth was unsettling. Humans did not want the throne. They wanted something far more difficult. They wanted the galaxy to grow up. And for the first time, the galaxy realized that ignoring humans had never been a mistake. The mistake was believing humans thought the same way they did. Now, With power stripped from those who abused it, the galaxy stood at a crossroads, quiet, watched, and uncertain. And somewhere beyond the stars, the human ships continued their silent work, not as conquerors, as consequences. With empires humbled and weapons quiet, the galaxy faced a question it had avoided since the first human ship appeared. Why did humans leave in the first place? The answer did not come from threats or demonstrations. It came from a story. Human ships began transmitting to civilian channels, not commands, not warnings, but records. Simple logs, personal messages, old footage. They were shared freely, unencrypted, impossible to block. The first recording showed a human family standing on a small colony world. The sky above them was full of stars, bright and hopeful. The message date was centuries old. "We believed joining the galaxy would make us safer," the human narrator said. "We were wrong." More recordings followed. Humans spoke of trade treaties that became traps, of alliances that demanded silence in return for protection, of councils that listened politely, then approved weapons anyway. They spoke of a moment, not one attack, but a pattern. When humans realized something important, the galaxy did not fear destruction. It feared limits. Humans tried to argue, tried to vote, tried to slow things down. Each attempt failed, not because humans were weak, but because the system itself rewarded aggression. So humans made a choice no one else did. They stepped away. A scientist explained it in another recording. "If you stay inside a broken system," she said, "you either become part of the damage or you are crushed by it. We chose to leave and rebuild ourselves first." Humans did not disappear to hide. They disappeared to change. They explored regions of space others avoided. Unstable zones, deep gravity wells, quiet voids where old physics broke down. There, humans learned patience. They learned control. They learned how to build technology that did not rely on constant growth or domination. A human engineer spoke next. "We stopped asking how powerful we could become," he said. "We asked how powerful we needed to be." The galaxy listened. Military academies replayed the recordings. Philosophers debated them. Ordinary citizens felt something unfamiliar, a mix of shame and respect. Humans continued sharing. They showed how their ships worked. Not full designs, but ideas. Systems that limited themselves. Weapons that required consensus to activate. Networks that shut down if misused. "These are not safeguards against enemies," one human voice explained. "They are safeguards against ourselves." That sentence spread faster than any fleet ever had. The final transmission came from the first human ship, the one that appeared without warning. "We did not return to rule you," the message said. "We returned because you reached a point where ignoring consequences was no longer possible." It paused. "You are now where we once were." The message ended. Across the galaxy, something changed, not in governments, but in people. Civilians questioned leaders. Soldiers questioned orders. Scientists questioned old assumptions about progress. For the first time, power was not admired for its size, but for its restraint. The council chambers remained quiet, not because they were controlled, but because no one knew how to speak the old language anymore. The human ships began to pull back from some regions. Restrictions remained, but lighter, as if testing whether the galaxy could be trusted again. A historian summarized it best in a single line, broadcast across learning networks. Humans vanished so they would not become monsters. Now, as the galaxy looked at the calm between stars, it finally understood. Humans did not disappear because they lost. They disappeared because they refused to win the wrong way. And by the time the galaxy was ready to understand that lesson, humans had already mastered it. The galaxy did not celebrate. There were no victory parades, no songs of triumph, no monuments raised to mark the end of fear. Instead, there was something far heavier, reflection. The old Galactic Council met one last time. The chamber was full, but the seats of power felt empty. Empires that once ruled entire sectors sat quietly, their authority reduced to memory. No human ships hovered nearby. No signals interfered. For the first time in centuries, every decision made in that room was truly their own, and that frightened them. A proposal was placed at the center of the chamber. Simple, direct, written in plain language so no one could twist it later. The Galactic Council would dissolve, not reform, not rebrand, and, in its place, a new framework would exist. One without permanent rulers, without unchecked military authority, and without the ability to erase entire species from history. The vote passed without debate. Across the galaxy, similar changes unfolded. War ministries were reduced to defense offices. Expansion charters were canceled. Weapon development was placed under civilian oversight. For the first time, power required explanation. As these changes took hold, the human ships began to leave. Not all at once. One by one, they slipped away from junctions and boundaries, vanishing as quietly as they had arrived. Trade routes reopened naturally. Navigation systems unlocked. Old restrictions lifted. Carefully, gradually. Humans were not pulling strings anymore. They were letting go. A final transmission was sent from the first human ship, broadcast openly across every world that could receive it. "We did not come to be remembered," the voice said. "We came to be understood." It paused, then continued. "If you return to old habits, we will return as well. Not in anger, but in duty." The message ended. The ship turned and disappeared into deep space, leaving nothing behind. Not even a signal echo. Years passed. The galaxy did not collapse. It struggled. It argued. It made mistakes. But wars were fewer. Destruction was questioned. Silence, once feared, became a warning sign rather than an excuse. Children in learning centers studied history again. This time, human chapters were not missing. They were taught honestly, without praise, without blame, just truth. One line from a human archive became required reading across hundreds of worlds. "We are not special because we are strong," it read. "We are special because we choose responsibility." In quiet corners of space, some still watched the stars, wondering if humans were truly gone. Others understood something deeper. Humans were never meant to stay. They were meant to arrive when needed, and leave once the lesson was learned. And from that day forward, one rule was shared across the galaxy, passed from leader to leader, world to world. Never ignore humanity, not because they will destroy you, but because if they appear, it means you've already gone too far.